Welcome everybody to another new user guide. Today we'll be focused on the data columns and data panel, two key features of Deepvue, and they kind of build your dashboard, right? You can set up the data that you find most valuable and use it along with the chart itself to analyze stock throughout the day, as well as after the trading day ends and on the weekends. So today, as I mentioned, we'll cover the data columns, which are over here on the left side, where you've got all the stocks either in a screener result or in a deep list if you're in that module, and the data panel, which I can open up over here by clicking this button. If it's closed, this stores data related to the specific stock that you're looking at. So whatever stock you click over here, this data panel will change, and you'll be able to scroll here, see all that relevant data that you have set up. As we go through, as Tyler mentioned, please leave as many questions as you want in the chat, Q&A. We'll try to get as many answered as possible. Once again, our goal is to enable you to do what you need to do when it comes to trading in Deepvue, help you as much as you can, and let you guys know about all the key features as well as data points that Deepvue has available. So with that started, let's go ahead. Let me close the data panel for now. We'll open that up once we get to it. But just starting with the data columns, you can scroll the chart back and forth to make it bigger or smaller. If it's bigger, it hides some of your data columns. So personally, I during the trading day, keep my most important actionable data columns over here on the left-hand side. And during the weekends, I might open it up a little bit more. But that makes sure that anything that is actionable, volume, relative run rate, the price itself, I always have that available even when I'm looking at a pretty big chart. But opening this up, and we'll kind of go through my different categories here. These are your data columns. As I mentioned, these store relevant data points that you want to review as you're going through a list of stocks, whether that's from a screen or a deep list itself. The headers are up here on the top. A quick hover gives you a little bit more info about it, gives you the full name here. And this is scrollable, so you can scroll to the right or to the left to see all the data columns that you have available. So if you have 20, 50, 100 data columns, you can easily quickly access them by going to the left or right. All right. In terms of setting up your data columns, once you initially load Deepvue, you'll be given a recommended set. Tyler's mentioning that right at the beginning here in the chat. And in order to edit the data columns that you have selected, what you want to do is go over to the gear icon. If you hover over that, it says column settings. Clicking that opens up the column settings pop-out where you've got your current list of data columns right here, as well as some folders which hold the different data points that you have access to. Once again, any data point in Deepvue you can use in a screen, you can use that in your data column, you can use in your data panel. Everything's available, both technical and fundamental info. As I mentioned, this is the current setup. Basically, top to bottom is left to right. So you can see it lines up symbol, price percent change last. You can see the order right here. And as you drag and drop, which allows you to change the order of the columns, you can see it updates automatically over here as well. You can also see the total number of columns that I currently have selected. And let's talk now about how to add a data column to your setup. So first things first, I'm currently on the recommended template. If you'd like to edit a different column set, you'd want to click this drop-down menu, click plus column sets. You can name this what you'd want. Let's go ahead and name this tutorial. You can select a folder if you would like to. I've got a few set up here, but we'll keep it here, and click save. And there we go. We've now successfully created a tutorial, and let's go back here and switch to that right here by clicking it in the folder, and you can see it's completely blank. So in order to add data columns to this, what we want to do is either use the search box or the folders itself. It's a very similar process to creating a screen in Deepvue. If you've done that, this should be pretty familiar. But let's go ahead and add the last price. Clicking that opens up this general. Let's also add volume. So basically, in order to add a data point, you just want to click that checkbox. You can also uncheck it, and you can also, to get rid of something, exit out over here in the menu. But let's go ahead and add back last. Let's add a few more things here. Let's do the market cap. Once again, we've got we've got dozens and dozens, hundreds of data points here that you can choose from. A lot of options here for you, depending on what's most useful for you. Once again, you're not expected to add all of these. Add what is useful for you and isn't noise. That's what's really important. Let's go ahead and add a few more here, and then we'll go back to my recommended set, and I'll kind of go through what I have set up and kind of walk through why. So a lot of people have questions about volume run rates as well as the volume ratio. These are time of day dependent data points that allow you to see, at 9:31 a.m., how is volume tracking based on what's normal at that time of day. So these are very useful to run and look at and reference whatever time you're looking at, whether it's 9:31 or later in the day at 3 p.m. Or just before the close. So let's go ahead and search that, click that. We have it on both a 20-day basis as well as a 50-day basis. So this would be looking back at the past 20 days at 9:31. How is the volume tracking relative to those past 20 days? 50 days is the same thing, just with a longer look back period. So that's pretty much it for adding data points. Once again, you can always uncheck them if you would like to, or X them out in the column. And in order to reorganize them, you drag and drop right here. So with that said, let's go ahead now, X this out. So say you have a new screen, or you simply want to change the data column setting that you're currently on. You'd go back to the data column menu, click this, and then you can see the currently loaded data column set. You'd give this a click, and then find the relevant set that you'd like to load. We'll load that recommended back again. So here is my initial set. Once again, you can see the settings that I have over here. Tyler, let me know, is there anything I'm forgetting when it comes to, or anything that you want to reemphasize when it comes to loading new data points into your data column set?
No, Rich, I think you covered all of them. Just the one thing to remember again is that the data points in Deepvue are universal. So if there's a data point that you can screen for, you can also add it to your column set, and you can also find it in the data panel. So those same data points exist everywhere in the application.
Yep. And there's some handy buttons down here if you'd like to. You can reset the columns, and I think clear sorting as well if you have something selected. But let's go ahead now, dive in. Once we've got that column set, let's go ahead and talk about actually using it, and also the data columns that I have loaded here in kind of my main setup. So I saw a question about what's the difference between run rate and relative volume. So here I've got both the run rate 20-day and RV 20-day, which stands for relative volume 20-day. They are essentially the same calculation, just one is represented as a percentage and one is represented as a ratio. So here, run rate on a 20-day basis for ACLS was 154% of what's normal. So if it was 100%, that would be spot on normal compared to the last 20 days at this time. But we're at about 54% above normal. This is the exact same thing, as you can see. It just basically represents, normal as 1, and 1.54 is again 1.54 times what is normal. So same here with AHR. We are running about 95% above what's normal, and you can see this is 1.95. So you can see the correspondence. Basically, if you prefer thinking in percentages, you can use that. I like personally percentages, but some people really like this number here. And I just want to point out, throughout the data columns, we've introduced a lot of really handy visualizations that, as you're going through screen results or going through deep lists, help kind of emphasize key points. So one of the things here with the RV 20-day that I really like is whenever this value is greater than 1.5, we highlight it with a purple dot here. So again, if volume is running really hot, at least 50% higher than normal, we have a quick visualization that kind of emphasizes that fact, which can be very helpful, at 9:33 in the morning when you're trying to assess whether volume's coming in faster on a breakout, something like that. You can clearly see that with that visualization. Yeah, Jose, I think I just answered your question, so that's perfect. Great timing. We're thinking alike, so that's great. You can see another few of the visualizations here. You can actually see the last 5 volume bars here next to volume. You can also see the daily closing range, which represents where the stock is closing within its range from low to high on that day. So closer to 100% would be closing, close to the high. 0% would be closing right near the low. And we have the same representation of the weekly. So that would just look at the weekly high or low and let you know where the current price stands within that range. So those are a few cool visualizations that we have incorporated into Deepvue. All right, so getting back to kind of column sets and the data points in general, as I mentioned, you can scroll left and right to make sure that you can see all the ones that you have currently loaded. And let's talk now sorting. So sorting is really helpful during the day or on the weekends when you're trying to go through a huge list of names. Intraday, it will sort automatically and update continuously. So if you want to sort by run rates, which is often really helpful, from highest to lowest, you can click that header once. It will sort from highest to lowest. You can see this little arrow indicator is pointing up, meaning the higher values are at the very top of your list, and this will update automatically. So say ONTO started really moving on volume higher than these two here, PDD and JXN. This would then automatically be moved to the top. So it updates in real time, which is super, super helpful. But you can also sort lowest to highest. So let's go ahead and click that. Now you can see that these are, moving on the lowest volume relative to the past 20 days. At that time, you've got a few names here, and you can see they're below 100%, which is why they're gray. So they're below average for that day. And you can see the same corresponding things with the ratio version of that same data point. So that's how you sort from lowest to highest, and clicking it one more time just clears the sorting. So right now we're not sorting by anything, which means by default, the list is sorted alphabetically, as you can see over here on the left-hand side. So that's how you do a simple sort in Deepvue. Again, you can use any column here. You can do it by volume. You can also clear the sorting. This is really important. If you don't want to, click this 3 times, you can always clear the current sorting by going over to the right side next to the column settings gear icon and clicking this icon here, the eraser tool, and there you go. Now you're not sorted by anything, and it's back to alphabetical. But as I mentioned, you can sort by anything. ADR%, we'll clear that. DCR, so everything up here is 100. As we go down, it gets lower and lower. And yeah, that's pretty much it for single sorting. So taking it one step further, which is really handy on the weekends, you can do a multi-sort in Deepvue, which basically means that you sort by one column and then you sort within that sort by a second column. So when would this be useful? This is really useful when you have a column that is discrete, meaning it's split up into categories versus continuous numbers like the price or run rate or daily closing range. So one of the ways that I use this is I like to set my first sort as the industry group, which is discrete. Everything is split up into different industry groups. So now I've sorted, from highest to lowest by industry. We'll go lowest to highest. So aerospace down here, there's only one airline stock. We've got apparel, auto parts. So you can see everything, but within each industry group is basically grouped together. So then what I do is I like to see within that industry group what are the strongest stocks within that industry group. So to do that, I basically use the absolute strength 1 month score, which basically ranks every stock on a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being the strongest, the top performers of that month. And so clicking this now, so we've got the first sort by industry, then clicking this header here, sorts this from highest to lowest. So we've got all these three aerospace stocks. Then we go from 94, 92 to 90. So you can see that it's sorted within this. So that's how you do that. And again, to clear the sorting, you could clear the secondary sort, and you can also clear the sorting using this icon here. All right. When it comes to multi-sort, Tyler, is there anything that you want to mention and really emphasize?
No, I think you covered it all. It is just important to remember that if you do have multi-sort enabled, it prioritizes the first column you click, then the second one, then the third one. So if you're trying to sort by daily closing range and it's like the third or fourth thing that you've clicked, it may not do anything because it's prioritizing the first three columns you sorted over the daily
Right.
closing range if it's the the fourth one that you've clicked on. And that red brush, when you click it, it clears all sorting, not
Yep.
just the most recently sorted column. It clears everything completely.
Yep.
So I think that's it in terms of sorting. The only other two things, Richard, before we move on, is maybe just show, it's fairly intuitive, but maybe just show how to resize the individual columns so that you can see the labels all the way. And it's not really part of columns, but they show up here. Maybe the earnings and dividends flags, we could just touch on those real quick as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. So in order to resize the columns, sometimes it's kind of blocked off like this. You basically go up to that same column header and you can drag it left to right. That will resize that for you. Over here next to the ticker, you can see there's some icons that pop up here. These are related to dividend dates. And then we also have flags that show up related to earnings. So a gray flag will show up when it's a few weeks away. A red flag is when earnings is a little bit more imminent. You can see this is September 5th, and it gives you that estimated date. Once again, you always want to double check that with the actual company, but this gives you, the estimate of when it's reported and also whether it's before market open or after market close. Yeah, this is super handy. We always, the earnings reports are so important. They're money making opportunities, but also if you own a stock and you don't realize earnings are coming out, that's a potential risk management error. So this is super helpful and one of my favorite features for sure.
It's an awesome feature. You don't want to get caught by surprise with earnings coming up if you're not aware of that. As important as they are, we know that not everyone likes the extra icons and things. So, Richard, do you want to show real quick how to turn those off too?
Yeah, you want to
With
walk through that?
Yeah, so it's basically you go next to symbol up at the top there. There's that little icon there. If you click on that, then you can toggle on and off the earnings dates and the dividend dates in the columns and get rid of them.
Yep, for sure. And Tyler also mentioned resizing the columns, spreading them out, or condensing them a little bit more. Once again, to do that, you'd want to click this gear icon, and then up here next to where it says column settings, you can click this drop-down menu and space these out how you would like. Some people like it a lot more condensed. I'm kind of a middle ground person myself, so I don't know what you use, Tyler, but this is kind
Me
of my
too.
preference.
I run the middle setting all the time.
Yeah.
I know there's others on the team that cram as much data as possible into the available space, and they run the super narrow rows.
Yep. All right. The last thing related to data columns is, just the bulk select tools. I think just show that quickly. If you want to add stocks to a watch list, you're going through something on the weekend, you can select as much as you want. You can also select the whole, the whole caboodle here by clicking this icon here, or sorry, this top here. And you can also click it again to deselect it, but you can click individual ones and then you see these icons that show up here. You can either copy them to your clipboard or add symbols to a specific deep list that you have loaded. So that's how you go ahead and do that. So that's pretty much it for data columns. I'll kind of stop here, pause for a second, open it up for questions related to sorting, data columns, and Tyler, feel free to jump in while people are leaving questions and add anything that I've forgotten. All right.
There's just a question here. Is it possible to use the category colors as a column to sort by?
So I think, are you referring to the target list columns?
Oh, I believe so. Yeah, sorting. I think it's sorting by the colors.
Not Not yet, but that's an interesting idea. So Tyler, if you could write that down, that'd be great. Oh yeah. So really great question, Nara. So you asked why are some of the industry groups colored in blue? We basically highlight the groups that show up the most on whatever screen you're looking at. So it can help you identify themes. If a lot of oil and gas names are showing up, we'll highlight that in blue. But again, it's just kind of helpful visualization that we've included to highlight themes and highlight key information. It's a great question. All right. I think we can move on now to the data panel. So in order to open that up, let's open up the chart. And up here, you have the icons for both the stats table, where if you click that, that pops up. But you've also got the data panel icon right here. So again, clicking this opens that up. And this is linked to whatever stock you're currently looking on. So right now, AAON. And let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit more. All right. Actually, that didn't help make that bigger. So let's go ahead and zoom back out. This data panel can either be represented in one column or in two columns. I personally like one column. I know some people like as much data right there as possible, especially maybe on the weekends. You can open that up to two columns. And again, you just click this icon to make that happen. The data panel is, as I mentioned, it's related to one specific stock that you're looking at, and it provides more in-depth info about that stock. And this can be fundamental info, technical info. Again, whatever data points are in Deepvue, you can load and utilize within your data panel. So you can see I've got a bunch of different categories here, company info. I've got some momentum and technical indicators here, institutions and leadership, and insiders here, income sheet here, EPS score and fundamentals, and weekly action setups, EPS, and sales growth. So these two categories here, I've had a few questions about how to set up kind of the earnings and sales data that we show in the stats table into a more vertical format. So you can see the last 4 quarters of earnings growth like right here and sales growth right underneath. So if you prefer to look at that, you can keep the stats table closed and just use and set up 2 different categories like this. But that's pretty much it for just scrolling through the data that you currently have set up. Once again, you can create many different categories, and it's just a scroll away, which is super helpful. I kind of keep my this is kind of the main data panel or group that I use. I also use momentum and technical. So here I've got the earnings date. Once again, really important to focus on when that date is. I got the market cap, sector, industry group ranks. I've got shares here, shares and float, the Stan Weinstein stage. So it's very cool that we've incorporated stage analysis into here, so you can see what stage a stock is in. I've got the average dollar volume, so it's different than regular volume. It's looking at how many dollars are traded each day. And I've got the website, so it's only a click away if I want to dive deeper into a particular company. And I've got many of the same data points that I have in my data columns over here. ATR percentage, I've had a few questions about that. Basically, that's looking at, what are the ranges of the stock in terms of percentage over that look back period. So over 2 days, you can see this value, and also over 10 days as well. So in terms of editing your data panel, and again, personalizing it to make sure that it's what you want to do in order to edit the names, or just quickly exit out any columns, is click this edit icon. And very similar to the data columns, you can drag and drop to move these around. You can also X out different columns here, and you can also change the name of a particular category if you would like to. In order to add a data point, you want to go ahead and click this plus icon. This brings up basically a long list of all the data points we have, and you can basically search for again any of these data points. So let's go ahead and add run rate to this. So let's do run rates, 20-day. It's going to add it to the group that I either have selected here. So you can click this and you can see it's adding to that group, or you can use this drop down menu to select a particular category, or even create a new category right here. Let's go ahead and add it to 50 day. And you can see that you can add, the same data point to multiple categories if you would like to. And let's go ahead and just do that here. And once again, if you want to exit, X out any data point, you can click this X and it will remove it. That's pretty much it. Again, you can just drag and drop if you would like to, excuse me. And yeah, anything related to adding data points that you want to reemphasize, Tyler, that I'm missing?
Just one thing that there is per basket or per category, there is a limit. So if you're trying to add a data point and it won't go into the category you're trying to add it to, it's because it's full and you've hit the limit. You have to pick a different category or create a new one to keep adding more data points.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely important to remember. I'll just show how to create a new category. Oh, see, maximum. So I've reached the max of categories. I've got quite a lot set up. Most people won't have that. I've made so many of these for tutorial sake. So yeah, you just have to X out a category and then you can add a new one. All right. So once you're satisfied with how you're set up, you'd simply X out, and then again, as you're scrolling through stocks, this will update. And when it comes to both the data columns and data panel, it kind of aligns with one of our major principles as as a company, as a software, the ability to let our users customize their experience and make it their own, right? Not everybody's going to want the same quick access data points. Not everybody trades the same. Not everybody uses the same information. So we want to make sure that you can put exactly what you find useful right at your fingertips, either in your data columns, as we showed over here, or over here in the data panel, so you can analyze them right next to the chart. And of course, the stats table is incorporated in that as well. So again, you can create your ideal trading dashboard. All right. Scott says, simply phenomenal. Blue highlight rows is brilliant. So happy. Yeah, great. We're glad you like this year. Thank you for the positive feedback. That's pretty much it for kind of the presentation for today, but we're kind of going to open it up now for any questions related to the data panel, data columns, or Deepvue in general. We'd love to just help you guys out and try to get as many questions answered as we can. And Tyler, before we do that, anything you want to touch on related to data panel or data columns?
You did a great job covering it all. Like I said, any data point that you can add to a column set, you can also add to your data panel. So if you want to leave your chart all the way open and all the way to the left, so it's as big as possible, and not look at the columns, you can put all of that information in your data panel and just leave that open all the time and see the same information.
Yep.
Just one other neat feature that we've incorporated, Richard, if you go down to website, you can see the URL there. That's actually a clickable link that will take you right to the company's website, right from the data panel, if you want to do some more in-depth research on whatever ticker you're looking at.
I think we'll go ahead and wrap up there, but thank you guys for joining. Hopefully this was helpful. Let us know if you have any feedback about how we can make these sessions better, more useful. And thank you for your questions and thoughts. Again, we want to make Deepvue the best platform out there, and we want to hear as much as your feedback, criticism, good or bad, so we can work to that point. So thank you guys again for your thoughts and questions, and we'll see you guys in Discord, and enjoy using Deepvue. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening. Bye.